Hello, this is Coach Tim Campbell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made as a Myth, Make a Difference Together show, where we are chatting with successful business owners to hear their stories of the journey to building their business. And because we know that building a successful business is not something that we can do on our own, we're taking some time to recognize the folks who have helped us along the way. Today, I am excited to have a fellow business owner from Indiana with us. My guest once helped harvest olives in Sicily. That's pretty cool. We're going to ask him a little bit more about that. In his downtime, he enjoys creative writing as well as long mountain hikes, and he's most proud of his kids. He has 5 kids and 6 grandkids. Congratulations. That's
Nice.
awesome.
Thanks,
And
Tim.
it is my pleasure to welcome David to the show today. Hello, David.
Hello, Tim. Good to be here.
Awesome. Hey, let's start with having you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of your personal story, like where you were born and live, and about your family and hobbies.
Yeah, sure. Born here in Indiana. Lived here most of my life. Around the Anderson area was where I grew up. Worked in Indianapolis most of my career. A little bit outside, a little bit in Ohio, a little bit in Detroit. Mostly have been in talent acquisition, leadership on the corporate side, and some staffing work as well along the way. And just past few years started consulting, and then that led into starting a company. And so most of my career has been in technology, software, cybersecurity, those types of industries, but a little bit of everything. But a lot of high tech.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so 5 kids, as you mentioned. My wife, when we got married, she was the youngest of 5, so that was her paradigm, right? And I was like, well, this is my sister and myself, so okay. So I got on board. We have a wonderful family. So my wife and I have been married for 31 years.
Oh,
Just
congratulations.
celebrated our anniversary. Did a 30th anniversary trip to Paris last year,
Hmm.
and spent some time in France for about a month, and toured around there, and worked from there remotely for a little while.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, good for you.
that was awesome.
Tell us
But
about the
yeah.
olives.
So that was a trip about 12 years before, and I'd always wanted to go to Italy. There's so much of Europe I want to see. But I'm not I'm not really good being your typical tourist, jumping on the bus and following the crowds and things like that. I want to get immersed in the language and the culture. Studied Italian in school at IU, and just yeah, I always wanted to go. And so I was at that time I was running just a hobby farm, like I had it was just part-time spare time weekends with my kids, and we would go to farmers markets. We had some subscriptions as a CSA, community supported agriculture. And I've always kind of had this entrepreneurial mindset or lean with myself. But I found this organization in Europe that does organic farming, and then you can go and exchange work hours for room and board. So it was a great way for us to kind of get immersed and
Oh, wow.
stay cheap and stay a little bit longer. So we were there for close to about three weeks, and they worked us like dogs. It was one of these things where they were way behind schedule and they were in panic, and we were like, okay, we'll help. And we were only planning to work like 4 or 6 hours a day, and then have the rest of the time
Yeah.
to tour the countryside and things. But no, it was sun up to sundown for about 10 days straight in mud, and it was awesome though. What a great experience.
I love that.
Yeah.
They worked us like a dog. It was muddy and horrible conditions, and you also said it was awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah, because I mean, the stories that come out of that, right? And the food and the culture, and yeah, I could share some really funny stories with just being there in central Sicily, where we stuck out like outsiders, like,
For
I mean,
sure,
people
right?
were very suspect of us, right? uh
Well,
is this the new boss in town? What's
yeah,
going on,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Well,
So, but
speaking of funny story, is there a story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
oh my gosh, well, it's related to that. I don't know, this is really embarrassing, but it's one of those stories. I like to laugh at myself, so right. So, and my family does too at my expense. um when we were there, gosh, I don't know if I tell this or not, but
Oh, it's too late now. You've already
too
opened up.
late, right? I know, man, Tim. Okay, so here it goes. We were harvesting olives, and like I said, we when you're in central Sicily, you're working on a farm. Things are very primitive.
Mm.
No laundry. We did our laundry in a bucket.
Uh-huh.
Basically, right? And we were working basically sun up to sundown, and they fed us well, just gracious hosts. They were wonderful people, and we still keep in touch today. We It was in the fall, so olives are harvested around October, late October, mid to late October, early November. And they had just a beautiful farm, and it was Halloween. So, and I'm not Catholic, but that's a big, that's a kind of a big mass, Hallows Eve mass. And so we wanted to go. The family was going. They said, "Hey, let's get in from the field. We're kind of in a hurry. We're in a rush, but let's go." And we were like, "Yeah, we want to be a part of this." So, uh, we didn't have any like clean clothes, really. And so I'm throwing stuff together. I'm out of undergarments, right? And so I just threw on some jeans and went, and we go to mass, and it's standing room only, and people are walking in, and I'm like, "Hey, I left my wife and our hosts, those two ladies go up, front and have the experience." And I was just like, "I'll just stay in the back." So I'm standing in the back, and one of the nuns comes in, and she looks at me standing in the back, and she signals to me, and I'm like, I don't know what she's
Oh
saying.
no.
You know where I'm going with this, don't you? So I go outside, and I'm just like, well, I'm just, this is, I don't know what she's saying, but I'm just going to go outside because there's nowhere to sit, and I'm like this, right? So I go outside, and this beautiful just evening, and I'm sitting in the plaza, and this wind comes in off the mountains, and just like, it's cold, and it hits me right, where it counts. And I'm like, I look down, and I'm wide up. I'm open. Barn doors open. So very embarrassing,
That
right?
may be one of the best funny stories I've heard. So
Oh my gosh.
you're in the running for the award.
Well, the family we told it at dinner that evening afterward, and the family just about fell off the chairs. So,
Oh, thank you for
uh,
sharing. Hey, David,
so
tell
I
us.
flashed. So basically, Tim, what the punchline of that story is
Uh-huh.
that I flashed a nun.
Yeah, right.
Claim to fame.
Only
I'm not
only
welcome
in
back in
Sicily,
Sicily, I
right?
don't think. Yeah, I can't go back there. I have to go to another part of Italy.
So, David, tell us, how did business come about, and at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
Yeah, confidence is a great word, because for a lot of years kind of thought I wanted to do this. I want to do something on my own. But that's one of the things that I've probably learned over the course of many years and continue to learn,
Mm.
right? I came to a point. I remember one conversation that I had with someone that I respected, that I helped hire to the organization I was with at the time. She was an executive leader for quality, and it helped her hire a lot of people. And she said to me one day, she said, "You really ought to think about consulting.
Mm.
You do this really well. I think you could do that really well on your own." And that kind of planted the seed, for years later when the organization changed, we were bought. I wasn't having much fun. I left, made a bad choice with going to another company.
Hmm.
Didn't work out. And then that started the journey, right? With consulting.
Yeah.
And then as I was consulting, I determined that like I'm going to be pretty limited if I'm billing my own hours,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
right? So I only have so much time, and there's more that we can contribute,
Hmm.
and I wanted to systematize what we were doing. So that led eventually to Field of Talent, and so that's I started Field of Talent. I consulted for a number of years with another partner for a little while, and then started Field of Talent in 2021.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit more about Field of Talent. What do you guys do? How do you help people?
Yeah, so what we do is recruitment as a service, basically, or RPO, recruitment process outsourcing.
Hmm.
So our approach to recruiting, when I started, I never really wanted to have a traditional headhunting, agency. I think that's a great model, and it's contingency or retained search works for a lot of companies and works for a lot of firms. Just wasn't my style.
Hmm.
I wanted to take really the white glove service and the guidance and the coaching of hiring managers and companies and candidates through the process, and be able to provide that as a service, as an ongoing subscription service.
Hmm.
And so we've taken largely we work with a lot of companies that are startups or scale ups that have funding. They're ready to grow. They have some pressure to grow, and they need help hiring, so they don't really have an internal team to do that.
Hmm.
Or if they do and they're a little bit larger, we augment those teams
Okay.
and supply them with talent from sourcing, or take a section of some of their jobs that tend to be more difficult.
Wonderful. And you said that you didn't want to be the traditional model. So tell us a little bit more about that white glove service that you mentioned.
Yeah,
What makes you guys different and unique?
yeah. Well, I think it's one of the things for us. It's always about we I never wanted someone to feel like they represented a fee to one of our team members,
Mm.
and that's kind of the fee per head model. Always made me feel that
Mm.
when I was recruited and different things. And I wanted to take a different approach and really be consultative and make sure that one of our uh, guideposts is to make sure that candidates know about our model and
Mm.
know that we're not going to try to put you into something or convince you of something that you're not ready for.
All right.
The next move in your career, it's got to be right for you.
Mm.
So somebody's career is much too important to have it based on a recruiter's fee, and
Got it.
so that's why we wanted to
Yeah.
make sure we de-emphasized. It's kind of like you see some retailers that de-emphasize, like, well, our salespeople aren't commissioned,
Hmm.
that type of thing, and similar to that. But um, we just wanted to make sure it's very candidate centric.
Yeah. Wonderful. David, share a story where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, even though maybe you didn't think that you could, and the impact that that person had.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it's uh that happens sometimes weekly.
Right? Yeah.
Right? I think it's uh man, that's a good question, Tim. Let's come back to that one.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. All right. What's your
Yeah.
biggest learning as a business owner?
Uh, rely on others,
Mm.
um, and develop others, and so when you start off consulting, it's just you. And so it's a process of delegating,
Yeah.
and elevating yourself.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
in delegating, it's also coaching and teaching
Yeah.
and helping others develop.
Yeah.
I think that's probably over the years, back to the previous question a little bit, is that I can't think of one necessarily person or point in time, but there's been people that I've reported to, worked for, clients, that have made us better,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's feedback that, like, hey, you don't really, it's not always pleasant to hear, but it's
Right.
constructive, right? It's very helpful,
Yes.
and so you learn from mistakes, or you learn from things that are working. Yeah, that's working okay, but could be better.
Yes.
So we're always asking those questions too of our clients, like,
Sure.
what could be better? How can we make this better for you, and make it easier?
I liked your thought on the delegation. So, one of the
Mhm.
exercises we have our clients go through is to evaluate, right, what's your dollar value to the organization, and it's a simple exercise. You just take your total company revenue and divide by 2,000 hours, and that's your
Mhm.
hourly value to the company. And then anything less than that, you should be exploring delegating or
Yeah.
outsourcing. Now you don't always delegate or outsource, but the aha moment comes of, wow, right? If my value to the company is $500 an hour and I'm doing a whole lot of $25 an hour jobs, it's
Yeah.
probably lopsided, right? There's probably
Right.
more that I could be doing to help my company grow if I
Hmm.
was to let go of some of those things. And I also, you mentioned then you have to train. So yeah, we can't just
Hmm.
dump onto our employees, but we have to make sure that they know how to do the things that maybe are only in our head, right? That we've
Right.
become
Right.
so used to doing it that sometimes it's hard to teach someone how to do it because it's so natural for us.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably a good exercise too for clients, right? Just to think, okay, what are they doing that we could help them with? And
Mm,
maybe that's sourcing, building a pipeline, kind of
yes.
nurturing a pipeline of candidates along the way.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of time. It's not necessarily hard work. The finding and the sourcing a little bit is kind of like detective work sometimes online,
Right.
so that takes some skills, but anybody can learn that, and if they have interest and a passion for it, they can be really good at it. But that sometimes those are things that we see that clients are trying to do, or the recruiting teams are trying to do, that they don't have the time for,
Yes.
or
Yep.
they have too much on their plate, too many open requisitions, that you know yeah, that's a really good way to think about it.
And I often, we all probably hear well, that's expensive or that's too much. It's like, well, but it's the opportunity cost, right? Like
Right.
you could
Yeah.
do it yourself and take 10 hours, or you could outsource it to somebody who that's all they do and it takes 2 hours. Right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
David, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of your biggest challenges during the years, and maybe a fellow business owner that came alongside you and helped you through that.
Yeah. I think it's uh, it's one of the challenges in starting field of talent was just getting up and running,
Mhm.
and like thinking about brand, thinking about the name, like just things that are, for me, were really important. I think like brand is really important to me, and some business coaches and people just say, ah, just start a name and go with it, right? So I put a lot of effort and thought into that. Had some really good advice from a guy that I helped get a job years ago with a client, and reached out to him and said, and he's a marketing director for a large services company here in town, and reached out to him and said, hey, Amos, what do you think? Give me some insight. And he was more than gracious, and gave me a lot of things to think about, a lot of great referrals, and really helped me kind of get started. So I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people, is like, where do you start?
Mhm.
And how do you start?
Yeah.
What are some things you really need to think about to set yourself up for success that you don't have to fix later?
Yeah. Awesome. So I know there's a little bit of a story behind your company name. So share that with us. Why Field of Talent?
Yeah. So, I grew up in my friends used to joke that, lived a little bit more suburban, right? That they would say, you grew up like in the middle of a cornfield, and that's in Indiana. That's really the reality for a lot of us. And that was me. And that's kind of where I live today. I live purposely. I married a girl I went to high school with, and we were both of the opinion like, hey, we're getting out of here, the small town, rural. We're gonna go. This was college years, and as we got a little bit older, we settled here in Indianapolis area, and then she grew up on some land and beautiful land, wooded and fields, and just very bucolic and pastoral. Loved it. That's kind of what we've both been used to.
Yeah.
And as we look out and I think of Field of Talent, I think of our approach. It's holistic, it's nurturing, it's caring, and it's effective, and it's really high, value driven. It rings true of a lot of rural America.
Mhm.
So
So,
that's really a lot of where it came from. And then the sports theme too. I love sports and always been an athlete and
yeah.
still try to be.
I love the intentionality that you put into the name and into your business. Yes, you're right. Some people will say just slap a name out there. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Who cares? But it truly does matter. And especially the industry that you're in, right? We've all had situations where we've hired the wrong people, right? And they didn't have a cultural fit, and then it's like, oh my goodness, like was a big mistake, and everybody's miserable. So having that intentionality of you know the hire slow fire fast idea, right? So
Right. Yeah.
coming up with the right company name and the vision for the company and the culture of the company is huge in terms of long-term success, because through
Hmm.
the valleys, right, the challenging times of the business, the being able to look back and go, okay, why are we doing what we do? And it's like, well, here's our vision, right? Here's our core values and our beliefs, and this is what holds us together, and this is our rallying call of why we all show up every day. So
Yeah.
I would say that, yes, there's people that would advise just jump in and go, but I like your approach, because those things are critical to the long-term sustainability and health of a business. So congrats
Yeah.
on taking the time to figure that out.
Well, thanks. So, I mean, it comes from leading human resources and leading talent acquisition for a number of years, and that I just saw that as people that joined, that stayed, felt connected to who we were, right? And so we just when it was just like three of us, we spent half a day just digging into like, okay, who are we? Who do we want to be? What are our values? Let's define those. And something we revisit quarterly on our values,
Mhm.
and we and annually as well, and make sure that, hey, does this still ring true? Are we living them? Things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. In our Monday huddles, we go around, I'll read one of our values, and then I start, and then everybody follows. I'll share how I feel I'm doing against that. So here are the
Mhm.
areas I think I'm strong. Right, here are the areas I believe I can work on and will be focusing on improving. And so that's how we keep it live, is
Yeah.
weekly we're visiting each of one of our values.
Well, we're going to do that today, actually. So thanks it's been on my mind lately to do that in our level 10s weekly. And so, yeah, so thanks. I'm
Yeah.
going to add that to our issues list. We're going to cover
Awesome.
that.
Hey, David, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If
Yeah.
I was to ask you to pick three people in your business owner journey that you're most grateful for, them being there for you and helping with the growth, who are those three people and how they help you?
Yeah. Well, number one, my wife, I think. I mean, she's tremendous, very supportive. When you start out, you got to have
Indeed,
great
yeah.
support at home.
Yeah.
And
And what's
I
your wife's
mentioned
name?
Libby.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's been tremendous. And she's number one. I think there are others along the way. people I've worked for, I would say guy named Howard with a partner that we have has been influential and a good mentor and a good sounding board. He's led services companies very successfully and very successful over a long period. So, having people that have been, where you want to go,
Hmm.
that's really key. So those are a couple. Let's see. The gentleman I mentioned earlier, just getting started and getting that initial like, yeah, I think I'm onto something. With my friend Amos. So that was really really key.
Wonderful. Hey, let's talk about the future a little bit. So as you think
Yeah.
about the next 3 to 5 years, what are the biggest challenges that you see that you're going to face in getting to your goals, and who are the types of folks that you're going to need to help you solve those
hmm
challenges?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of change
Mm.
every day. A lot of change coming in recruitment and business in general. We're seeing a lot with AI and a lot of talk around that. How does that how does that play out? I think making sure that we're always on top of our technology stack, that it's working well for us, that we optimize it, we're optimizing our use of it,
Mhm.
is a continual thing that we talk about. That's on our mind. Um, it's a differentiator for us, and we want to make sure it continues to be a differentiator for us.
Great.
At some point, maybe we pivot a little bit and move into some product development or something like that. But
Mhm.
for now, it's about making processes repeatable, predictable, or making our business model very predictable. We spent a lot of time on that last year, and I think we've gotten to that and gotten to some. We're starting to see some metrics that make sense and that we can use and reuse and predicting outcomes for time to fill, time to hire, and pipeline. What we need to have going into the top of the funnel for candidates to have the right people coming out the bottom.
Wonderful. Fantastic. And who are the types of people that you're going to need to help you with that?
Yeah, I think people that are, we've taken an approach that recruitment and is a practice that can be taught, and there are a lot of people that want to break into this, and so that's the approach that we've taken.
Mhm.
We've taught a lot of people how to do this,
Awesome.
or a few people anyway. We plan to teach a lot of people, and then along the way, I think too, we'll need to hire some other folks that have a lot of industry experience as we grow,
Mhm.
that can help us maybe lead practices. But so far we've been successful with teaching and training up people, and that's not easy. It takes a lot of time. It's
Sure.
taken a lot of my time, but it's very worth it, very rewarding.
Mhm. Awesome. Hey, last question here. David, Jim Rohn, awesome business guru, says that we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So, as you think about that quote, what advice would you have for business owners who are doing it on their own and don't think that
Mhm.
it would be helpful to ask others for help?
Yeah, make friends, ask for help, swallow whatever pride you have, just just be. So one of the things that we three things that we look for when we hire, from a character standpoint, we look for people who are hungry, humble, and smart.
Mm,
That's a Lencioni thing, right? So but that's really, I think people that are hungry, want to learn, they're teachable, they're humble, so that plays in as well. They're willing to own mistakes and improve, and they're smart. They have a capacity to do it.
yeah,
So that's worked pretty well for us so far. Yeah, that's the advice I would say, is just continue to make friends, network, um, admit your weaknesses.
mm.
I mean, man, I've got them. And so I'm always trying to look to see who can help me, shore those up
Mhm.
so that I can focus where I'm strong.
One of the things I hear from those business owners who are reluctant to ask for help is, "Hey, that person I want to talk to is really successful. They're really busy. Right? They're not going to have time for me." How would you react to that?
Hmm. Yeah, I would say yeah, I always try to get a warm introduction,
Mhm.
right? You come in cold, and sometimes it's not, going to be all that effective.
Yeah.
But um, uh, just if I had to say something to my younger self,
Mhm.
it would be like lose the fear, like just be fearless.
Yeah.
Go make mistakes, mess it up,
Yeah.
learn from it,
I
get
love
better.
that. Yes.
Right. So I think so many of us just doubt ourselves,
Mhm.
and I did for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really key, is to say, um, look, here's where I want to go. Be intentional about, your plan, your goals, and share that openly.
Mhm.
And, I think there are a lot of people out there who've been very successful who would love to have someone who's hungry, humble, and smart, and
Yeah.
teachable, and provide some advice at least too. And if you can get just a nugget of advice, maybe that's the thing that launches you forward, and
Yes.
not may not become a mentor of yours, but you've they remember you. They're part of your network.
Yes.
And so I'm an introvert by nature. Networking is not natural for
Mm.
me, um, but pardon me. And I don't think it is for most people. But when you take the stance of, I'm not here for myself, I'm here to help someone else.
Hmm.
So for me, in building a business so far, has been about how do I help the people that work for us?
Right.
How do I help our clients?
Yeah.
And that there's no pressure on me and me trying to be something.
Mm.
Um, it's about being altruistic for others and for other organizations. And so
I
when I
love,
do that, I can talk to anybody, right?
yeah. I loved your what you said about being fearless. I can't think of one person I've reached out to ask if they'd be willing to, you know, have coffee and share stories
Yeah,
that said no. They may say,
right.
"Hey, not this month because I'm really busy, but let's try to get something on the calendars next month." But yeah, everyone I've talked to has said, "Hey, yeah, I'd be willing to give you a few minutes and
Yeah.
share stories and answer some questions." And I mean, it's almost when people have reached out to me, it's honoring, right? Wow,
Yeah.
they'd like to hear my story. Yeah, of course I'll give them some time.
So we spend it's something that is a practice of ours. I'll take a meeting at any time with anybody that's beginning a career search, a new job search,
Mm.
or maybe they just want some counsel, some coaching. They're thinking about making a change. That's an important, these are important decisions in our lives, right? That affect a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I'll always making time every week to just have those discussions, and
Yeah.
try to help someone network to the next person, to the next organization, maybe some feedback on a resume.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
I'll
love it.
make I always make time to do that.
The other thing you said about being fearless is jump in and make mistakes and right learn through them. So here's
Yeah.
the reality for everyone listening is, we all prefer our comfort zone, right? We've been programmed to stay in the cave because if we step out
Yeah.
of the cave, the lion eats us or the bear attacks us. But here's the thing, everything we want in life and everything we want in our business is on the other side of our comfort zone. So the
Yeah.
longer
Yeah.
we delay, right, taking those risks and stepping outside of that, the longer we delay the successes that are awaiting us. So I love that, right? Make some mistakes, jump out, figure it
Yeah.
out as you go, right? We are going to make mistakes. It's inevitable. That's how we grow and learn, right? It's how we learned how to walk.
We just had a discussion with a candidate yesterday that accepted an offer from one of our clients, and we helped her through that, helped her think through it, and it was something she had been with the organization for, 9, 10, 11 years, something like that. And she was like, I've been pretty comfortable
Mm.
here. This seems stable,
Yeah.
right? And so the fear is that I go to something that's maybe less stable or doesn't work out, or just the fear of change in general. But for us, it wasn't about, we're never trying to convince someone, for the next thing. We provide the data, the facts, the opportunity. For her, it was kind of helping her think and ask questions that she could ask herself
Mm.
to get to that realization that, yeah, and by through the process and affirming at the end of our conversation yesterday that, yeah, I am ready to make a change
Mm.
because I know that I need to do that in order to grow.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yes. And there's another fun saying that we're either growing or we're dying. There's no status quo,
Mhm.
right?
Right, right, exactly. So, I see that. I still garden and love nature and being in the woods, being in the fields and in the garden, and you see that, right? That's nature. That's just the way it works.
Yes, indeed. I do a vegetable garden every year, and I don't know what happened to one of my tomato plants, but the poor little thing died. So
Uh,
it's
Tomatoes are
sad.
finicky.
It's right. It's sad when
Yeah.
you invest all that time into those little babies and one doesn't survive.
Yeah, yeah. It's tomatoes are finicky. There are a lot of things that can go wrong there, but so rewarding when they work out.
Yeah, indeed. David, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people that have helped you along your journey. If they were all here on the show today, what would you want to say to them?
Just thanks. I mean, gratitude is something that's on my mind and on my heart every day. Yeah. So
Fantastic.
just thanks and continual praise and thank you for the time, for the energy, the advice, the belief. Yeah.
Wonderful. David, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for
You
being on
too,
the
Tim.
show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. To those who tuned in, thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help spread the movement by liking our show and posting about it on social media. And to join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.